Welcome to the Los Angeles Tribune page. Here you will find original news programming, exclusive digital events, and shows that are directly from the community. At the Los Angeles Tribune, we believe in giving a voice to the voiceless. We are proud to be the only national brand to empower everyday people to make a difference. Since 1886, our reputation has been built on truth and responsibility. Thank you for watching and making a difference.
For general inquiries, contact today. Thank you on behalf of the Los Angeles Tribune team.
And welcome back to a very, very special edition of the Moe Rock Show. Today, we're honored to have some living legends amongst us. And I say that with no hyperbole when it comes to impact in the world, impact for human civilization. I'm very excited because we're going to spend the next 30 minutes talking to the definition of what I call a power couple. You see, a lot of people use the term power couple so loosely. But today we're actually going to examine what does a true power couple in today's world look like. And what I'm excited about, Ava, Alicia, and Rex, is not only are we going to be able to spend the next 30 minutes celebrating leadership, because this is a special program that's also part of the LA Leadership Week, we're also going to celebrate service. And as many people here in our community know, recently we were awarded with the privilege and the fiduciary responsibility here at the Los Angeles Tribune, working directly with AmeriCorps as well as the Office of the President to recognize individuals that have committed their lives to acts of service. And in fact, yesterday, we had a wonderful ceremony in Temecula, California, where we were able to honor 7 individuals that have given back to the community, that have worked hard to make the world a better place. And today we're excited because Mark and Crystal Hansen are also amongst some of our recipients that we were able to nominate and present this honor to. And it's not, as I've always said, Ava, Alicia, and Rex, it's not about any of the single individuals. It's about what it represents, service. And with that, Ava, Alicia, Rex, some quick opening statements before we bring up Mark and Crystal Hansen. Ava, please.
Thank you. Well, Mo, that was such a beautiful introduction. We are really thrilled to have Mark Victor Hansen and Crystal Dwyer Hansen with us today on National Volunteer Week. Could not be any better. We're celebrating both leadership and volunteerism, and really diving into the many ways, if we can even count the many ways that they give back and make our world a better place. I'm excited. And Mo, back to you.
Alicia, please.
Yes, it is such an honor and a delight to be able to recognize individuals that in the community that are serving individuals near and far through their philanthropic endeavors, through getting them to think a different way, act a different way, providing food, shelter needs. There are so many societal issues that community service works on and touches. And Mark and Crystal have done so much for the community and shifting mindsets and being able to support and provide for other individuals. So we are just delighted and honor, Mark and Crystal, to have you with us here today.
Thank you, Alicia. Rex Sikes.
When it comes to Crystal and Mark Hansen, there may be some or a few people in the world who don't know them by their name. But I would venture to a huge guess that most people know them by the legacy work that they've left behind, and they're still doing it. They contributed to so many millions of people. They've reached heights of being able to make certain accomplishments that other people are hoping someday to be able to do just a little bit as much as what Mark and Crystal have done. So it's indeed a pleasure and an honor to be able to nominate them for all of the work, philanthropic and otherwise, that they have done over the years.
And with that, we want to welcome them to our virtual stage. Mark and Crystal Hansen, welcome to the Los Angeles Tribune. Of course, this is a special part of our LA Leadership Week, where we have assembled some of the top thought leaders from around the world to discuss leadership. And let's start here. Let's start with what's the importance, and this question is for the two of you, of service-centered leadership. Leadership that is about giving back to our fellow man, giving back to the fellow living organisms here on planet Earth. What is the importance of service-centered leadership? And we'll kick it off with Crystal Hansen, please.
Service-centered leadership. I just think that, none of us can do this life alone, you guys. We all need each other. And when you've been blessed, you need to bless other people back. There are other people, and it's not because they're lazy or they're not desirous of having better things. There are a lot of people out there who need a little extra help. None of us understands what circumstances life's going to deliver to us. We don't know. And I think, one of the first things that I got involved in, one of the biggest projects, the first big project I did, I decided to send my kids to Catholic school. And because I love the idea that they would all be dressed in the same uniforms, that, what they would stand out on their heart and their intelligence and their own academic achievements. It wasn't about whether or not your parents could buy you the fanciest jeans. And so when it came time to do the fall festival, which was their big fundraiser of the year, no one stepped up to do it. So I just thought, if I don't do it, no one's going to. So I stepped in there, and it was the most amazing experience. It was one of the most amazing projects I've ever worked on. We raised a record amount of money that year for the school. And the thing that was so beautiful about that school is kids would come on scholarship. So no one knew how much money your parents made. And it meant so much to me that I just sort of became addicted to giving back and understanding how much you really can make a difference. Your leadership and your serviceship really does matter.
Thank you for that, Crystal. And Mark.
So we philosophically believe you got to serve for the sake of serving, give for the sake of giving, and love for the sake of loving. And we obviously know that leadership starts inside out. So you got to study it, think about it, and say, what are your high values? What is it that you're the penultimate of values? And the penultimate of values, one of the master teachers said, is the greatest amongst you is servant of all. And so every book we've ever written, we tithe on every book. And yes, I wrote a book on tithing, and you can go to my website and get it free, called The Miracle of Tithing. And businessmen look and say, what's the miracle of tithing? And I said, you haven't been tithed enough lately. Anyhow, we teach the 5 T's. And the first one is thankfulness, because you got to be thankful for everything. I mean, thankful for I get to keep breathing, thankful that I'm upright at 76 and going to live to be 127 with options for renewal. I have a quality of life, but thankful. Then the next thing you give is you got to give your thinking. Then you got to give your time. Then you got to give your talent. And all of us have more talent than we've ever tried to maximize. And when you start maximizing, like Crystal said, a blessing's only a blessing when you give it away. When you give it away, it comes back multiplied, magnetized, and magnified. So you tithe your thankfulness first, thinking, time, talent, and then your treasure. But every philanthropic organization starts out with a treasure, although we do that on every book. And that's why, I've as a nonfiction author, according to Guinness Book of Records, I've sold the most books in human history, because we tithe on every book. And I'm getting royalties on books I did 50 years ago. So this is like a really good, what in our book business called a long tail. It is a really good deal.
That's incredible, Mark and Crystal, and I want to congratulate the two of you on being nominated for the Presidential Lifetime Achievement Award. Let's talk a little bit before we kick it off to Rex, who I know has a question. Talk a little bit, if the two of you would, about the work that you two have done in your lives that some people may not be aware of, because we know in this community that the two of you have lived a life of service. We know that the two of you have done a lot of things behind closed doors, not in front of the cameras. And so we just want to give an opportunity for the two of you to share a little bit about some of the things that maybe publicly you haven't really shared, because we know the two of you don't brag about yourselves. But take a minute, please, and just share, not from a place of hubris, but from a place of inspiration, because we want to give the community here ideas and plant the seeds of what service may look like. Please, Mark and Crystal.
So one of the organizations that Mark and I really have a heart for and became very involved in is childhelp.org. So these two beautiful women who are now 89 years old started this organization. They were actually beautiful young actresses. And back in the time when they were doing the USO tours, they got called on a USO tour to go entertain the troops overseas. Well, it just turns out they were walking out in a typhoon one night. They got a little restless. They were supposed to stay in the hotel. They walk out and they stumble onto, this is during World War II. They stumble onto these children huddled on the sidewalk, freezing with no shoes. And they said, where's your papa-san, mama-san? Why are you out here by yourself? It's dangerous. And they said, no papa-san, no mama-san. So they gathered these kids up in their coats, took them back to the hotel, bathed them, fed them. They had the maids help sneak them in. And then they looked at each other and said, what are we going to do with these kids? And the general found out they were hiding these kids in the room. And he said, you have to get rid of them. And they said, no, we found out that orphanages are putting, half-breed children that were mixed race, probably the children of a lot of our, men in uniform, because they were letting the purebred Japanese kids stay in the orphanages. Those kids were considered not as important, not as valuable. So they just said, we won't give them up. They spent the next day they had off, they cruised the entire city. He gave them a car to help them go around, and they went to every single orphanage, and none of them would take these kids until at the end of the day, they found a woman named Mama Kin, who was basically in a little hovel. There were no windows or doors on this place. The kids were warming themselves around a hibachi stove. And they said, please, will you take these kids? And she said, I will take them, but you can see I have nothing. I don't have any more food for them. If you can help me get some food. And they said right then, we promise you, we will provide the food forever for the rest of your days if you will take these kids. And they started from that effort, Orphanages International. They got the military men. Later that evening, when they were entertaining the troops, they passed around the hat and said, guess what? You're going to put up your money because these might be your kids. And we want a bunch of volunteers to come over and help us rebuild this building. So they started that organization. They sent home, asked their friends and family, friends in Hollywood for money. They funded that organization. When the Vietnam War came along, they'd gotten so much notoriety for their heartfelt work that they were asked by the generals to come in and help these other kids in Vietnam who were being thrown away, basically. They conducted the biggest operation called Operation Baby Lift. They got several thousand babies that they were getting ready to kill, the Viet Cong. And so they arranged for all those children to come over to here and to Canada and be adopted. And they had the parents waiting, and they matched them up with the little bracelet with the number of the baby. And the photos of this are just so heartwarming, you guys, these little boxes of babies. So that started, eventually Nancy Reagan came to them and said, you need to help the crisis here in the United States, which is, they said, what crisis? Kids are pretty good here. And they said, no, child abuse. Children are being abused horribly every day. And sometimes it's at the hands of their own caretakers. So they said, we need to do a study on it. We don't know anything about it. Nancy Reagan had a check to them the next week for $25,000. They did a study. They found out, sure enough, kids desperately needed this help. They started childhelp.org. And when Mark wrote Chicken Soup for the Child Soul, there was an organization they tied to on every book. And I think that's why these books were successful, because the 10%, the first 10% was given back to God's work. And so that was the organization that received that 10% from Chicken Soup for the Child Soul. And since then, Mark and I have just stayed involved. They asked us one year to run this campaign for their 60th anniversary. And I'm telling you, we don't have any time to run a campaign. but we couldn't say no. So we did it. And we were able to get a lot of new people involved, raise a lot of money. And, you know, we've just always trusted God that, you know, this, you know, no, every act of, what is it? I'm saying Emerson's, every act is its own reward, right? That's what Emerson says, right? So when you're giving of yourself, you don't have to think about, oh gosh, I'm giving my valuable time away. Is this ever going to come back to me? I promise you that every good act you do is its own reward. And I really feel that is why Mark and I have been so blessed, is because we're not afraid to give. And the giving often has to come first before you really see the greatest blessings.
So, can I add to that, Mo?
We would love for you to add to that, Mark, please.
So first of all, Child Help, which we're still on the board of directors of, so we're regulars, and they're headquartered here. These two ladies who are turning 90 in just scant days have more energy than most 20-year-olds. So they're just beyond amazing. But we've helped 12.5 million kids in neglect and abuse predominantly. And it just is wonderful. But I want to jump topics and say, when Liddy Dole came to me and said, look, Mark, you've written more books than anybody. Now it's the number's 3. We're just about ready to publish 322nd book under my name. Anyhow, that's 50 years of, and they're still selling, thank God. Anyhow, Liddy Dole said, hey, look, we're out of blood. And as great as American doctors are, we have no such thing as pseudo blood, false, fake blood. You've got to have human blood go to human that's compatible. And so I said, well, let's go to medical doctors. She said, we tried that. They said, no, thanks, even though they see blood and guts all the time. So, well, wait, I work for a market, but the biggest market that could do it quick would be the chiropractors. I have trained them how to have high volume practices and got 3 honorary of my 10 honorary doctorates in chiropractic and humanitarian awards and all that. And I said, I wrote out all the chiropractors. I said, you're going to call 800 Give Life. People watching can still do that. And, you know, find out where to give a pint of blood. But they all did it at their offices. We gave a little 3-pot chicken soup book with 3 parts. Everybody who gave blood, they reactivated all their old patients. 25 million patients came in. We got enough blood cryogenically frozen for the next 3 years in advance and saved a lot of lives. Now, let's do it today. If you've never given blood, you ought to do it because it'll make you feel better. You live longer, you're more flexible. And the other little thing you can do, assuming you're going to die someday, is write on your driver's license that you want all your blood when they suck it out and put all that other stuff in. If you're going to be buried or cremated, give it back, because every pint of blood saves 9 lives. And I'm still spokesperson for the Red Cross. We totally are believers. And I believe a lot of people watching this, because they're into the volunteerism, if you're a 10-gallon giver, you've saved 10,000 lives. It just is such amazing thing. And people say, well, I don't have anything to give. You can give a smile. You can give a pat on the back. You can give an encouraging word. And additionally, plus yourself by giving a pint of blood.
Incredible. And Rex, I know you have a question very briefly, please.
Well, they pretty much answered my question before I get the chance to ask it. But I want to say that I really appreciated the opening, Crystal, that you made, where you said people need help and they're not necessarily lazy. They just need a helping hand. You know, and throughout history, there have been those people who think, well, the people who don't have as much as the other people are lazy, or they're freeloaders, or they want something. Leadership in our country, in the United States, typically is a military model. We think in terms of leaders in that way. But what you describe is servant leadership, the ability to serve, to give first, and not be concerned so much about the reward. Now, yes, you are exemplars in terms of your ability to give, your ability to manifest, and the money that you have. So for those people that don't, and that don't understand that they can give, as you just said, of anything, how can other people take that kind of servant leadership role as, say, a Mother Teresa did? You know, Mother Teresa had no nickels to rub together, but she's one of the most influential and powerful women in the world.
Yeah, you know, Rex, I think it really starts with just looking at the world around you, looking at the world closest to you, because that's really how I fell in love with giving and serving. When, you know, my children, I had this kind of argument with my husband. He wanted to send them to this really exclusive school that was super expensive. And I said, no, I don't want that to be their badge of honor, that what we can pay for them. I want them to stand out on their own service. You know, I want them to pray with other children. I don't want them to be judged by the clothes we can buy them. I want them to be judged by their own academics, by their own kindness, by the things they can do. So when we got to that school, you know, there's always a lot of need because a lot of these children are coming on scholarship. And so I just saw the need. And what was interesting, you know, when there was another mother, her name was Susie May. And so I was asked to be the chair of this, you know, fall festival. And the most they'd ever raised was like $35,000. They said there's a big trailer out back and that's where we keep all the stuff. You can find all the games and stuff and you read up. Not a model. There was no model for really much what to do. And I lost my co-chair. She changed schools right a couple of weeks after we got, you know, assigned to this. So I was the only chair. But fortunately, there was one other mom, and we went into this old trailer where they kept like an old, you know, like a train car kind of thing. And we started digging through this, and we realized that everybody who had run that event before, when they were done with their thing, they just threw everything in there and left. And it was the biggest mess. And she and I, nobody else wanted to help us with this. So we just said, we're going to do this. This isn't how we run our own homes. We spent many days sorting through junk, and rats had gotten into this trailer, and it was such a mess. But we unwound everything. We had some helpers, you know, with the janitor and stuff at the school. But we reorganized this trailer, and in doing that, and really putting our own hearts and souls into it, and doing it, treating it like we would our own, you know, home, our own project. We're out there sweeping it out ourselves, cleaning all this mess up. We found so many cool things that we could use for this festival that people had forgotten about through the years because everybody was just too busy to take the time to see how we could do this best. So we not only left the place much more organized so the next team could take over the following year, but we raised a record $67,000, which is a lot for, you know, a little school fall festival. Just because we treated it with care, like we'd want, you know, something of our own to be treated. I think if people look around their lives and say, how can I help? Even what, you know, your kids' schools might need help, your neighborhood, your community, what community centers could you just step down to? We've taken the kids down and served at the homeless shelter. We want them to see that there are people who wake up every day and they don't have a meal. They don't have a fridge to go open, you know, and whip up some good dish, you know, to eat. So it's just important for all of us, I think, to be aware that we all get, you know, we're all narcissistic. We get wrapped up in our own lives and we start thinking it's so hard for me. But the best gift you can give yourself is go get involved with someone else who probably has it a little harder than you. It will change your life more than anything you do.
Rex, I'd like to also add about Mother Teresa, with your permission, and two quick stories about Mother Teresa. She's 57 years young. I don't ever call people old because that would be a misnomer for anyone, but she's 57, living in Calcutta, which I lived in India for a year, so I'm real clear what this place is like. And the caste goes from Brahmin down to untouchable, and she sees an untouchable on the street, but she sees Christ in his eyes, so she picks him up like a little fork loader, takes him home, goes to the head of the archdiocese and said, I want to start Sisters of Charity to take care of these people. The guy said, the head bishop said, well, how much money you got? She said, 3 cents. I said, 3 cents, you can't start that. She answered like you just asked, 3 cents in God, I can do anything. And obviously she did. And my younger brother, Brian, said he was with her with 90,000 people one time. And he said, I thought you were good at ask money at churches, Mark, but nothing compared to her. She tipped every one of us upside down 3 times and poured out our pockets. And I gave, and I said, well, you can give, and it'll come back multiplied. Second story is, I was on the board of the world's biggest airline for 15 years, Evergreen. All the all the UPS planes, we painted them brown. We wore brown outfits, our people did. And it was just an amazing deal. And top sleep doctor, still alive, and one of my close friends for 50 years, Dr. Lou Tartaglia, who goes by Dr. T, out at Cleveland University in medical school. Brilliant guy. calls me up and said, hey, look, I know you're on the board of that airline and you guys fly to India. Is there anything you can do to get me there? I got to go see Mother Teresa. So I said, yeah, let me call the head of the company, the guy who owns it. One guy owns it, Del Smith. I called Del. He said, just one condition, Mark. I said, anything. What is it? He said, I get to go meet Mother Teresa with Dr. T. I said, I think that's okay with T. He just wants to go. They get there, and the gatekeeper says, look, we wrote you a letter. You didn't get it, Dr. Tartaglia? He said, no. I said, no, she's not going to see you today. She's not feeling well. I said, well, the letter didn't arrive. He hears her voice because he'd watched all the videos and he needed to get with her. And she is arguing in Italian with one of the brothers who's saying, hey, look, we need people that do the AA program and all the GA program and all that. And Lou walks through the gatekeeper, gets up to Mother Teresa, who's saying to Brother Angelo, God will provide, God will provide. And Dr. T said, Mother Teresa, I am Dr. T, and I want you to know I not only an American trained medical doctor, but I have trained in Italy, postgraduate work, and I speak fluent Italian. Got 5 kids, can't miss it, and I can really help him. She looks at him and says, see, God will provide.
Amazing. What a great story, Mark and Crystal. And I want to thank my colleagues, Ava, Alicia, and Rex, who'll be doing a wrap-up program here. And I know we only have a couple minutes left, so I want to switch gears. And first of all, just congratulate the two of you again on being official recipients of the President's Lifetime Achievement Award, number one. And number two, I want to talk a little bit about publishing in closing, Mark and Crystal. And I know we have a couple minutes left with the two of you. Readers of our latest Special Thought Leader edition noticed that one of the best-selling books is, of course, Ask by Mark and Crystal Hansen. And it's an official Los Angeles Tribune best-selling book. You can see alongside the likes of Oprah Winfrey, etc., and Jay Shetty, who've also made the list of our latest best-selling recommended bestsellers. And I want to ask you, Mark, and no pun intended, exactly. I want to ask you, no pun intended, look at that beautiful book, for aspiring authors. I love it. Absolutely. That's a Los Angeles Tribune best-selling book. So for aspiring authors, Mark and Crystal, or for individuals that are looking to get their book recognized, what is the significance of being a Los Angeles Tribune best-selling author for individuals that are seeking that type of recognition, please?
Well, there's only 2 lists left. It breaks my heart because the industry has been so good to me for 50 years. But USA Today is their book list, which I had 15 of the top 50 books at one time. And Maya Angelou, who you mentioned earlier, said, boy, you're hogging lists. I said, no, we just sell more books than anybody alive. So they're gone. And then Wall Street Journal is gone. So you're number 2 after New York Times. And I predict, as I have to you personally, Mo, because you and I are dear, great friends, that you will become the number 1 book list in the world because you're playing literally a world game. And what you and I have talked about is that we want not just Americans to read, not just people that speak English to read, but literally, and we're thankful. We think everybody needs to have Ask, and Crystal did the best cover in the world on it. But the fact of the matter is everyone knows the line, ask and you'll receive, but they don't know how to do it. And we teach how to ask yourself, ask others, ask God. And it'll change your life. That's number 1. Number 2 is that we own a publishing company now because we want to make sure, like your newspaper that goes out everywhere, and I used to deliver papers like the Chicago Tribune, so I'm really clear what this is like. And now you're doing it to the whole world. We want to get everybody published, and we own Mark Victor Hansen Library, where we ghost write books for fiction, nonfiction, and biography. And we want to help everybody get published because, like you, everyone's got a story, and we want to bring your impact story to life. Because when you do, your life gets bigger, it gets brighter, it gets better, it gets more wholesome, and you are honoring those who have the ability to write. And we're just so thankful and touched that we made it to the top of your list.
Thank you, Mark. Love you. I appreciate you. Ms. Crystal, please.
No, what an honor. I mean, Mark's right. I just say ditto to everything he just said, because sadly, all of these important lists are disappearing. And the lists are important because people are looking for that recommendation. They're looking for the books that people are really loving, that are really, changing lives, impacting lives, or just even entertaining people, that are just really good writing. And so I am so thankful for this list, Mo, because I think Mark is spot on. You guys you are becoming the most, New York Times and I mean, it's all gone away, Wall Street Journal, everything. So congratulations to you for really making that a priority, because reading literature, books are so important. Books change the world. And Mark and I have, lived our lives through books in so many ways in terms of reading. We were both avid readers when we were young. Books shaped us, helped form us, helped teach us. And that's what we do with our writing. And so it's just a very important thing to the world.
If I may add, we believe everybody's got to read 10 minutes a day, whether you do it first thing in the morning when you wake up. And we're saying, hey, read something positive, uplifting, that is soul, mind, and body, and result nourishing. And that's the kind of stuff we write. But there's a lot of our colleagues, and we admire every one of them. And you've been very kind to host us with Ava and Rex and Alicia. It's just been extraordinary experience to befriend you all.
Mark and Crystal Hansen, thank you for the stand that the two of you make and the example that the two of you set for what's truly possible when it comes to power couples. And we hope that all the couples watching learn from this example to be service-centric. Thank you to the two of you. And until next time, this has been a special edition of the Moe Rock Show, where we're honoring Mark and Crystal Hansen, as well as celebrating leaders all week right here on the LA Leadership Week. Mark and Crystal, I appreciate the two of you. Thank you both. We'll be in touch very soon. Thank you.
Welcome to the Los Angeles Tribune page. Here you will find original news programming, exclusive digital events, and shows that are directly from the community. At the Los Angeles Tribune, we believe in giving a voice to the voiceless. We are proud to be the only national brand to empower everyday people to make a difference. Since 1886, our reputation has been built on truth and responsibility. Thank you for watching and making a difference.
For general inquiries, contact today. Thank you on behalf of the Los Angeles Tribune team.